I needed to test some gear as well as take some photos for my social media profiles. So I thought I might as well capture some BTS of it and show you guys all of it. So today we're going to be talking about how to go from this to this. So yeah, let's get into it. Hi, my name's Miguel and I'm your neighborhood filmmaker and photographer. I shot these on the A7 IV as well as the Tamron 28-75 f2.8 G1. And I don't think I used any filters on it. So yeah, just the camera on a tripod and me controlling it and clicking through my phone. So we're gonna be using two Godox TL60s with grids on it, which are my tube lights, a SmallRig RC220B, which is gonna be our key light with a softbox on it, and we're also gonna be using a Forza 60C with a projector mount on it. I know it can be a little bit of gear, so don't worry if you don't have all of this, you can achieve similar looks with way less gear than I did. I also took some photos with just some of the lights on so you can see step by step what each of the lights is doing. So here you can see I set up my tripod, shooting towards the L of the room to try and give it a little bit more depth, because as you can see this is a pretty bland room with nothing on the walls. As well as always the curtains have been shut down so no light from the exterior comes into the room. This way we get a nice blank sheet to work on. Above the camera we have our Forza 60C with the projector mount on it on a C-stand pointing down at our subject. On the right of the subject we have a light stand with the Godox TL60 with a grid on it so we can prevent spill, and really just trying to hit this part of the subject, just the light, give it some fill as well as a bit of a rim light. Behind the subject we have a second Godox TL60 which gives us a nice soft light just to light the background. And finally, tilting down and about a 45 degree from the subject, we have our SmallRig RC220B with a softbox and a grid on it to prevent spill from the light going all around the room. I know it can seem like a lot, but it's actually really simple once you understand what each of the lights is doing. So here's a photo with just the house lights, and as you can see, it looks quite shit. I got bags under my eyes, as well as the lights have weird color cast and they're a bit too dim so you can keep the ISO on your camera really low for a clean image. Other than that, there's no real subject separation, as well as the image looks a bit flat, so let's fix that. To start off, we're gonna turn on our key light, which is gonna give me a nice soft light to light me, and it does a lot of the heavy lifting in the photo, as well as it gives me a nice catch light in my eyes. Due to the angle, it's also giving me a little bit of a triangle on the cheek, which is called Rembrandt lighting, which comes from some painter whose name I guess is Rembrandt. Next up we're gonna add our first tube, which is on my right side, which is gonna give me a little bit of fill as well as a rim light to help separate me from the background. This also helps lift our shadows a little bit as well as introduce a little bit of color into the image. Notice that this light is already a bit soft. That's because it's a tube, so if you look at a COB, all of the light comes from this chip, which is like pretty tiny, and the tube is already like this size. So even if with the grid on it to help it direct the light, it's still a pretty soft light. That's why it lifts the shadows without giving us second shadows. Next up, we're going to be turning on our second tube light, which is right behind me, and it's set to the same hue as our first tube light, just a little bit dimmer. And this is going to help us separate the subject from the background a bit more, as well as introduce a little bit more color into it. Notice again, this is a pretty soft light, and this time we don't have a grid on it because we do actually want it to spread all around the background. Also, the fact that this is the same hue as the first tube light also helps us make it make sense to the viewer. So if you didn't know, or if you don't understand anything about photography or about how light works, you could kind of believe that the side light from the first tube is actually coming from the background. Finally, let's just add our light with the projection attachment, just giving us a little slit of light in the background set to yellow, which I think works nice because it complements with the orange and it adds a little bit of more visual interest to the otherwise dull background. Okay, so note that these portraits are not meant to be naturalistic in any way. They are supposed to have a more surreal feel and feel somewhat artificial, both due to the quality of light as well as to the hues that we're using. Alright, so after we're done with this shot, we experimented with switching up a bit of the lights, switching up the hues and the position of the lights, and here are some of the other examples we came up with. I think for a pretty quick setup, as well as a pretty tiny room, it's not too bad, but let me know if you guys like it or not, and let me know if you also learned anything here. So yeah, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay safe.